Level 2, I wanted to give you a little demo on how you do the little bitty paper strips coming out of your paper. Y'all probably have some smaller strips that you have intersecting the big strips. If you don't, this will also help you with color. If you're struggling to figure out how to color the red and the green, I'm going to help you with that. Also, if you have a blue section, I'll be doing a color demonstration on that. So let's get started. If you look here, the red is relatively bright, and on your still life, I believe your reds, if you have a red, is pretty bright as well. So one of the things that people kind of get scared about is making the red look pink. So what we're going to do is we're not going to add a white to our base. We're actually going to add a cream, because if you think about it, the red is actually a warm tone. So we'll do just a little base layer, and I'm just cross hatching right here. And if you look at it right here, this is a really, really bright area. So I'm going to lay this down kind of a medium thick tone, and I'm just going to make sure, obviously, that your pencil is sharpened, but I'm just going to outline as I go with that. Now, if you look at this little part, this is a shaded area. So we're going to add just a little bit of a base tone just to give it a little something, a little foundation to have as you go. Okay, so there you have the base tones right here. So what I'm going to do, and I'll just show you the colors that I'm going to be using in general on this. So I have, let's see, I have the poppy red, and then next I have the cadmium red, and then I also have the crimson red. So the poppy red is kind of a orangey red. It's a very bright red. So what we're going to do, and this is the lightest shade. So one thing I would tell you to do is with your still life, just put your pencils up to your photo, and you could even make marks on the paper just to see what would actually work. But we're going to add the lightest color tone to this. I'm just going to really lightly outline. These are really exact strips. You don't want to go outside of the lines. And then I'm going to just add some hatching color value here. And this is pretty much a flat value. And if you look, you probably see it as being an orangey red on your screen here. So the next thing we're going to determine, is this bright enough? I think that it is for right now, but we may end up adding a little bit of cream on top as we go. The next thing we're going to add is a cadmium red. We're just going to layer that on top of this. And I'm going to outline as I go. And then we're going to add our crimson red. Now this crimson red, a little bit of this stuff goes a long way. So just real lightly, you're going to go a little bit heavier with the lighter tones that you're going to be using. And we'll just go really, really light. I am hatching and cross hatching and that sort of thing with that. Okay, so that's what we have here. I'm going to do something really similar to the darkened area. If you look at the darkened area, you kind of see that cast shadow going into your work right there. So I'm going to very, very lightly add my poppy seed, or poppy red, not poppy seed, red. And then I'm going to add my cadmium red. I'm just going extremely, extremely light because we want this to be a big difference in value. So I'm going to go a little bit heavier. This is where you go a little bit heavier with that crimson red. Okay, so this doesn't quite look like this, but if you had a medium tone, one thing that I would do if you have like this range and this range, this is where you would stop. But if you have a really darkened area, what you're going to do, and this is really similar to the other video, you're going to end up adding a indigo blue, and this is a dark brown right there. So for the shadows, you can see it's a very extreme shadow. So we're going to start off by adding our blue, and you can see, man, just a little bit of this stuff goes a long way. There's a huge difference right there. And if you go too heavy and you realize, oh my goodness, I've taken away all my red, just go back and layer the red on top of it. Now, what you need to determine at this point is this too blue at this point? If it is, you may add a little bit of brown. At this point, I don't think that it's too much blue. What I am going to do, I'm going to look at, and I'm observing the shadow, just where it's the darkest, and I'm going to start layering that little point, and I'm not going to put as much here. I know you probably can't see much difference on your screen. There's a little bit of a difference here just by looking at it, and then I'm going to just neutralize it just a little bit. I mean, there's barely any brown right there, and just go back here. So at this point, what you've got to decide is this bright enough? And if this red is not bright enough, what you will do is go back and you will actually add very, very lightly some cream on top of that red to brighten it in some of those spots. And don't be afraid to do this. Just add a little pop to what you have with that. And it does make a difference in your actual finished product if you exaggerate the lights and the darks of what you're doing. Okay, so the next little video, or the next little segment here, I'm going to go into the green. So the green, well, we got all these colors right here. In addition to, we're going to have this and this. Okay, so the green, it is actually a warm green. So what we're going to end up doing, and I may do this little bitty section because it does have a little bit of a shadow. I'm trying to find an area where there's differences in value and stuff like that. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my red. Just going to go into it, outline just my base tint that I'm going to be adding right there. Okay, all right, so out of all these colors, goodness gracious, I got to figure out what my brightest green is going to be. And my brightest green, and I will say before you do all this, make a little mark on a sample piece of paper to figure out what you want. But this is called True Green. So I'm going to add my True Green. And it's darker here, and it's actually brighter here. So I'm going to add my True Green here, and it's going to be heavier where you've got your brighter area. And then you're just going to lessen the pressure as you go into the dark area. So what you've got to determine with your green is, you know, does it have a cool undertone? Does it have a warm undertone? This one is I would say it's more on the cool side. So I'll show you some ways with blue that we'll add to it. It's kind of in between, to be honest with you. Okay, so the next green that we're going to add is something a little bit darker, a little bit more dull. This is the apple green. And you can always go back with your previous greens if you need to. So I'm kind of dulling things down just a little bit as I'm going here. Okay, so there's that. If you go a little outside of your line, let's go back into it with your eraser right there. Okay, so the next green, and this is one of those, a little goes a long way. This is grass green, and the darkest point of this is going to be here. So I'm going to do a little hatching right here, and just going to add it here and there. And not so much as I go into my part where there's a highlight. Now, if you look at your dark and you realize, yeah, it's kind of gotten a little bit of a dull value, before you actually do, you know how you do your dark blue and you do your dark brown, the indigo blue and the dark brown. You know how you do that usually for your shadows. Before you do that, if you realize, you know, this thing is kind of dulled down, you can add the peacock blue. You can add peacock blue to just about anything that the purple paper strips. I added that there just to brighten some of that blue that I added. And I'm probably going to add that in a whole lot of my still life. That could be the accent color in your still life. It's a great blue. Okay, so this is adds a really nice difference in your piece. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add the indigo blue. And I'm cautiously adding that. It's not too terribly dark, to be honest with you, the cast shadow that's happening here. And then if I feel like, you know, I've gotten a little bit too blue, I can go into it and neutralize it right there if necessary. So do what you need to do. If the transition you feel like is a little bit too dramatic, you can always go back with some of your colors and layer on top. If you feel like if you feel like you need to just brighten things. This is the canary yellow, and we used our canary yellow on the yellow paper strip. You know how I told y'all previously, if you want to introduce some of the colors and unify some things that were in the previous strips, do it. If you feel like you need to add a little purple here just to unify this purple right here, that will do it. The main thing that you need to know is all these colors are different, but try to make them related by incorporating some of the colors in the different paper strips to some of your colors where you may feel like it may be a gamble, but it'll end up making your piece look really emotional and really interesting. So I'll be doing some more instructional videos in the future. Y'all have a great day.